From the ashes of the Great War rose a conflict that reshaped the world. This is where history speaks, loud, raw, and unfiltered. Welcome to World War II Chronicles, where every story matters, every battle echoes, and every life remembered. Join us as we uncover the untold, revisit the decisive, and relive the global struggle that defined a generation. This is not just history. This is a chronicle of courage, conflict, and consequence.
In 1939, Europe was still recovering from the First World War. Nations were rearming, alliances were shifting, and tensions were rising. This is the story of the invasion of Poland, the event that marked the official beginning of World War II. After the First World War, the Treaty of Versailles imposed strict conditions on Germany, including territorial losses, military restrictions, and heavy reparations. This led to political instability and economic crisis. At the same time, fascism rose in Italy, and in Germany, the Nazi Party gained power under Adolf Hitler. Meanwhile, Poland, re-established in 1918, faced challenges in uniting its diverse regions and maintaining independence. The League of Nations, created to preserve peace, struggled to manage growing tensions in Europe. In the 1930s, Germany began rearming and expanding its influence. The annexation of Austria in 1938 and the occupation of Czechoslovakia in 1939 demonstrated Hitler's ambitions. Poland, geographically positioned between Germany and the Soviet Union, became increasingly vulnerable. Britain and France, alarmed by Germany's actions, pledged to support Poland in the event of aggression. On August 23, 1939, Germany and the Soviet Union signed the Molotov-Ribbentrop Pact. The public portion was a non-aggression agreement, but a secret protocol outlined plans to divide Eastern Europe, including Poland. This agreement allowed Germany to move against Poland without fear of Soviet interference. On September 1, 1939, at dawn, the German battleship Schleswig-Holstein opened fire on the Polish garrison at Westerplatte near Danzig. Moments later, Nazi Germany launched a full-scale invasion of Poland by land, air, and sea. It was the first lightning strike of a new kind of warfare, blitzkrieg, and it marked the beginning of the Second World War. German forces advanced with overwhelming speed and coordination. Over 1.5 million troops crossed into Polish territory from the west, supported by more than 2,000 aircraft. Bombers targeted railways, bridges, and military installations, but civilian areas were not spared. The city of Warsaw came under heavy bombardment in the early days of the conflict. The Polish army, though brave and determined, was outnumbered and outgunned. Their defenses, based on a slower mobilization strategy, were overwhelmed. Polish cavalry charged mechanized infantry. Units were isolated, and communications were disrupted. Despite this, pockets of resistance fought valiantly, slowing the German advance in areas like Mokra, Zura, and Warsaw itself. On September 17, a second front opened. The Soviet Union, acting under the terms of a secret protocol in the Molotov-Ribbentrop Pact, invaded Poland from the east. Over 600,000 Red Army troops crossed the border, claiming to protect Belarusian and Ukrainian minorities. In reality, it was a coordinated partition of a sovereign nation. Trapped between two powers, the Polish government fled to Romania, and organized resistance began to collapse. Warsaw surrendered on September 27 after intense shelling. By October 6, the last organized Polish units were defeated. The campaign lasted just over 5 weeks. Tens of thousands of civilians were killed. Hundreds of thousands of Polish soldiers were taken prisoner, some sent to labor camps, others to their deaths. The country was divided, the West under German control, the East absorbed by the Soviet Union. What followed were years of occupation, repression, and resistance. The invasion of Poland was not just the opening act of World War II, it was a harbinger of the brutality to come. It shattered the illusion that war could be avoided and revealed the deadly ambition of totalitarian regimes. Though defeated, Poland's spirit endured, as underground resistance movements and exiled armies continued the fight abroad. This was the first chapter of a global conflict that would reshape the world. On September 17, 1939, just over 2 weeks after Germany invaded Poland from the west, a second army crossed the border from the east. The Soviet Union, acting on a secret clause in the Molotov-Ribbentrop Pact, launched its own invasion of Polish territory. Moscow claimed it was stepping in to protect ethnic Ukrainians and Belarusians living in eastern Poland. In truth, it was a coordinated agreement with Nazi Germany to divide and dismantle the Polish state. As Polish forces fought desperately in the west, they now found themselves trapped between two advancing enemies. The Red Army, numbering over 600,000 troops, met limited resistance. Most Polish military units had already been engaged against German forces and were not prepared to fight a second war on another front. In some areas, small units and local militias did resist the Soviet advance, but the outcome was inevitable. By the end of September, the Polish government had fled into exile. Soviet and German officers met and held joint parades in towns like Brest-Litovsk, dividing the country along lines secretly agreed upon in August. Under Soviet occupation, eastern Poland faced a wave of political arrests, deportations, and repression. Thousands of Polish officers, intellectuals, and civilians were imprisoned. In the spring of 1940, over 20,000 Polish prisoners of war, mostly military officers and police, were executed by the Soviet NKVD in what became known as the Katyn massacre. The Soviet invasion of Poland was not just a territorial maneuver. It was the beginning of a brutal occupation that would scar the region for decades. For Poland, it meant betrayal from both East and West. For the world, it exposed the true nature of the alliance between two totalitarian powers, and foreshadowed the ruthless geopolitics that would define the war. Despite being outnumbered and outgunned, Polish forces showed immense bravery. They mounted counterattacks, delayed enemy advances, and protected civilian populations where possible. The Battle of Zura was the largest and most notable Polish counteroffensive, inflicting considerable losses on the Germans. Meanwhile, civilians endured aerial bombings, destruction of infrastructure, and mass displacement. Entire cities were devastated, and countless families fled their homes. Resistance movements began forming, planting the seeds for a long underground struggle. Reports of atrocities and summary executions emerged from both the German and Soviet zones. The brutality of the invasion foreshadowed the horrors the world would witness in the years to come. Britain and France declared war on Germany on September 3, 1939, honoring their commitment to Poland. However, little military action followed in the West during the early months of the conflict, a period known as the Phony War. Poland received limited support, and within weeks, the country was under occupation. The invasion of Poland marked the beginning of the Second World War. It demonstrated how quickly peace could collapse and set the stage for a global conflict. For Poland, it was the start of a long and painful occupation. And for the world, it was the ignition of a war that would reshape borders, nations, and lives forever. This has been World War II Chronicles. Subscribe to follow the untold stories, defining moments, and lasting impact of the war that changed the world.